Hello, wonderful humans. Welcome to episode number 55. So today, myself and Ray talk about the 5 questions that we should all ask ourselves if you're either just starting out on your personal growth. Are you in the middle of it? Are you near the end of it? Or yet the stage where you're like, actually, it's a whole lot of nonsense because you don't learn anything, or you do learn stuff, but it doesn't make a difference. All of the things that we speak about here are really good for reflection from our point of view. So I hope you enjoy it. If you do, ask some questions in the comments. Please give us some feedback so we know what resonated with you, so we know what direction to take it as we add more episodes on. Enjoy it, and we hope you enjoy setting yourself up for 2025 and beyond. Good evening, morning, afternoon, good day, good night, good really early in the morning. And if it is really in the morning, and I mean like 3 o'clock, what on earth are you doing listening to this podcast? I know, you're committed. Right, welcome back to, have I said already? The Identity Human podcast. I'm doing it this week with your hosts, Don and
Ray.
And welcome back. So we have been super busy recording 12 days of Christmas podcast episodes.
We're so excited to
get you guys going, or get everyone. So if you're listening to this in a year's time, then we recorded this and then played the 12 days of Christmas to get everyone ready for obviously 2025 first and foremost, get you in the right space, and obviously because we're doing our free mindset challenge launch on the 2nd of January 2025. But more importantly, what are we talking about in this episode? This episode is going to be the 5 questions you need to ask yourself before you go on your growth journey. Or if you're in the middle of it, you should ask yourself these 5 questions now and see what resonates and what doesn't, and what's been holding you back because it's been right in front of your face and you haven't been able to see it. Sorry. Evening, Ray. Good morning, Ray. Hello. Hi.
Hi, everyone.
I don't know if I've acknowledged you yet, and I just
You have.
Oh, right, okay. I was in the zone. I'm focused. So I'm excited to talk about today, and I think we should probably just get straight into it. So the first question I want to talk about is not going to follow the order we've got it written down there, but it is, just to contextualize it, you are on a personal growth journey. That's why you listen to this, and you're in the middle of it, or you're about to start.
I would love to hear, what does it mean for those who are listening? What does it mean to go on a personal growth journey? So you say on your journey of growth, what does that mean?
Okay, so there's something inside of you that you keep hearing question you. And it goes, why have we done this? Or I want to do this.
Or you feel like there's something that needs to change.
Actually, I heard Mel Robbins in a podcast ages ago, and she said, you're only jealous of things that you want. Mm-hmm. So it's then thinking about, what are you jealous of when you see other people have it?
And we're not talking necessarily material things.
Yeah, I'm talking like when you see someone that's cool, calm, and collected with their kids, and you go, I'm not that, and I want to be that.
Well, interestingly, I say it's not material things, but there's a massive concept that I think a lot of us so easily ignore, is often to hold on to material things, and that comes from money or large home. You have to embody a certain energy to be able to, because often you hear of so often you have stories of millionaires, people who've made millions of pounds or dollars, and they lose it all through no fault of their own, or something goes wrong, or maybe it is a fault of their own, a lesson they needed to learn, and they are able to make millions again so quickly. And it's because they know they've learned how to make and hold that type of energy. And so they've personally developed in such a way that they can easily get those material things. So yes, as originally said, it's not about, when we're talking about, it's not just about those things that other people have that you want being material objects, but it's actually, you might be just the way that they hold themselves in situations, but that naturally feeds into material objects.
And also, you have to go through something to realize that you don't really want it. And there's nothing wrong with using material objects as a motivator to get you somewhere. Mm-hmm. As long as you have a foresight to realize that once you've got it, you're going to be like every other person that's got it and says, this doesn't buy you happiness. Mm-hmm. So use it as a way to get somewhere, knowing that what you actually want isn't the big house or the Porsche or the private plane. It's the character that you're going to be once you've got that.
I know you've always said, Don, for the last couple of years, you want to be a multimillionaire, not because of the money, but because of the person you have to become.
Well, I'm going to correct you there. I've said I want to be a billionaire, and that's always scared you, right?
Okay.
And I'm like, it's because that standard of person to what he has to know, how they have to carry themselves, and there's obviously conditions. It's like through no trauma, it's through, and it's got nothing to do with the money, but it's who I know I want to be, because I'll get to a point in my life where I know I could easily step into being that kind of person, and it's like holding the responsibility, being able to hold the privilege, all those kind of things. When you have that much money, you have to know how to deal with the pressure. You have to know how to make smart decisions, have proper character, understanding of the people around you, because everyone changes. Like, it's so much more than just the money. The money is a byproduct. So, but I always feel like we lean away from them because like, oh, they're unhappy or they're evil people. But actually, no, like, that's a standard of person you're going to have to be. You're going to have a deep sense of understanding of so many aspects of life other than just one thing, because you're going to be the center stage of something.
Yes, makes sense.
So yeah, thanks for putting it out there. It's the first time we've actually said it, but yeah, it's okay. So I hope that kind of contextualizes, you know, what growth journey means.
And it doesn't have to be aiming for the millionaire or billionaire. It could be something on a much smaller scale for you, but it's a journey, I suppose, of you're here, you're at point A, and you want to get a point to point B.
Yes, and so let's bring in the next bit before we actually ask the question.
The 5 questions.
Ray, the 5 questions. I want you to repeat something that you've struggled to repeat. I see you laughing because you know what I'm going to make you do, right? Could you please repeat the sentence that I know that has only recently maybe been something that you've been able to actually say and understand why you say it?
So Don thinks it's important that I say.
No, you think it's important.
I am who I am, and that is enough.
Okay, I mean, you said that very comfortably, even though you know millions of people are listening. So if
Millions of people are listening.
If you're not watching the video, I've just shown a shocked face, because she's limiting the release. This could be the episode that just gets like, it goes Evan Hansen on the world. Just everyone needs to hear it. So if you're listening to this, I would love you to say to yourself, or even see how hard it is, to say, I am who I am, and that is enough.
And that applies to all parts of you.
Everything. I am who I am, and that is enough. The first time I try to get Ray to say that, she goes, yeah, but you don't mind me saying, but I'm not enough. Why are we trying to improve if I am enough? And I think a lot of people understand that question is important to contextualize.
And I brought that up as soon as you said, I want to share like the 5 questions I think people need to ask themselves if they're going on a growth journey. And I said, I feel like that starting point of realizing I am who I am and that is enough right now. You might say, well, why do I even need to go on a growth journey if who I am right now is enough?
Yes. So, and the answer I'd say is like, we've got to accept that we've done the best we can with what we've had to get to the place we have, and we have to be super grateful. Like, you are enough. We are all enough. But as humans, we have to look forward and go, how can I leave behind something that's better than what I got? Because if everyone just settled with, I am enough, we just level out, right? So there's nothing wrong with knowing I'm going to be more. I'm going to be more because of the good that it can do. But actually, that doesn't mean that I hate who I am right now. Because that's, I think, one of the harshest things for us to learn, is we have to learn to self-love, self-accept who we are, so that we can move through that version of us now into the version of something that we know we want to be. Because it doesn't mean we're enough. So it
doesn't mean we're enough.
It doesn't mean we're not enough.
Okay.
Because I think if you're coming from a place of not enough, it's a place of desperation, want, survival, prove. Like, you're going to be proving to the world that you are enough. And I think that we talk about the energy, the magnetism that you give out, that comes across as desperate. But actually, we want to, that spider moth analogy, if you haven't heard it, like the moth really flaps its wings and gets places, but it flaps its wings so hard that it eventually flies into the spider web. And the spider sets itself up and it goes, I am who I am, and that's enough. But I know I'm going to spin this really nice web that's going to catch this moth so that I can eat. And it just chills, but it grows as it does that. It makes its web nicer, like the symmetries in there, it remakes its web. So I want us to really recognize that I am who, and if you struggle to say this, write it down in a journal every single day and see if you can get comfortable with really accepting I am who I am, and that is enough. But boy, I'm excited for who I am to be what it's going to be in the future, because it's come from a place of love as opposed to come from a place of avoidance or really not enjoying who we are. Because you can't go forward unless you accept who you were. And that episode we did in Vegas was a big one for me, is I was trying to go so hard forward, but the boat analogy, if you've ever driven a speedboat, for the first 50 meters, that boat is dragging in the water, and then suddenly it hits the plane. I think it's called planing, or
something like that, like a plane's
and then it
across the water.
skims across the water
So easily.
But that first initial bit is it's got
The
a lot of the
resistance.
boats in the water. If you don't accept who you are now, you are going to be dragging that along with you, and it's going to be hard to get to the top speed. So you have to lift yourself up from who you are and go, I am enough. And that lifts you up out of the water, and then you set the engine going. You go so much faster. So
that's a great analogy. I love it.
I use it often. Sorry,
so if people want to now, they've worked on and they're really happy, and it's not going to necessarily be something that happens overnight, especially if you're very far from being able to confidently say, I am who I am, and that is enough. But it's something to know that you need to work on before you jump into, or as part of jumping into these 5 questions.
Put it this way. It should ignite you. So you might still be stuck with the question, yeah, but Don, why then are we still trying to improve what we've got? Why trying to change? Why are we trying to grow? And it's like, we should get ignited to the fact that we as humans are all connected. The more you can be of you, the more people can be of who they are around you, because you inspire that in them. And so, yes, you're enough, but enough is it's like, here's a cup of coffee, and we want to have more of that cup of coffee. So let's make more of that. So let's make more of you. Let's let your light shine even more, because that effect you're going to have on the people around you and everything you do is the reason to grow. So yes, in our core, we're growing for ourselves, but in the long term, that legacy you're leaving is you're growing for everyone else.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm hoping that we've answered those questions, those doubts, the skepticism. So the first question I want to ask, or you should ask yourselves, or we should ask ourselves, is, do I really want this? Okay, so we're all sitting here going, I want this goal, I want to be this, I want to do that. But if you can answer this and really come to a 10 out of 10, I really, really, really flipping want this.
So put it on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yeah.
How much do you really want this change in your life?
Yeah, if you can get this to that 10, genuine 10, and I'm talking like your whole body feels it, your stomach feels it, your mind feels it, you wake up every day feeling it, that's how you'll know it's a 10 out of 10. None of the other 4 questions will matter. But we genuinely will start with something we think we want.
And that's why you'll see people who will have like a big life-changing event, and they're able to go on this massive growth journey, because if it becomes a 10 out of 10, and everything else doesn't matter. Like a person who close to them in their life has died, or something's happened, they've been in some accident, and it becomes a 10 out of 10.
They've put on weight, and then suddenly they realize that they've got a kid that they want to be there for when they
have a health scare or something. Yes.
Yeah, so they just bang, they make a
Whereas
decision.
if you're anything from like I'm not going to put a number on it. I'm going to put a number on it, but the numbers, it's very personal. But let's say you're like a 6 to an 8. So you're not quite a 10 out of 10, but it's a pretty deep desire. That's where the other questions become important.
So, yeah, all of these things will sit there, but maybe you haven't categorized it in a way that is your 10 out of 10. So, for example, for me, do I really want the £1 billion? No.
Yeah.
But do I really want to be the person that can have it? 100% yes.
Yeah.
And that's the thing, and then you've got to decide on the route that you're taking, where's the resistance coming? Why is it so hard for you to do it? Because actually you're chasing something that you don't really want, but it might be part of something that you do. So, this is a repeating theme of what we said throughout. You'll hear us talking about, make sure you really want this. Make sure that you've actually decided this is for you, because we can often lie to ourselves. I do really want that. I do really want that job. I do really want to make that change. I do really want to lose weight. But then you stop trying after 3 weeks. I do really want to improve my diet, but then you stop trying after 3 weeks. And it's like, well, at that point, you've got to be honest with yourself. And the sooner and quicker you can be honest with yourself, and the more you go, but what is it that I do want? You will start to find out the thing that you really do want, and things will flow a lot easier. Because you're not fighting an uphill battle where you're trying to chase something that is kind of what you want, but not really what you want.
What does it need to be out of 10? What's too low?
Anything below an 8.
Yeah, because we've just said 10 out of 10 people, the rest of the questions don't matter.
Yeah.
But some people can still go on a growth journey without it being 10 out of 10. So I'm asking, what does it need to be?
Anything below an 8, you need to redefine.
To fine-tune
To fine-tune. And that's it. So sometimes we get so stuck in I want an ice bath every day, I want to lose 10 kgs, that's the kind of thing that'll reinforce us at like a 6 out of 10. But if you find out what is it about that 10 kgs that's going to make you feel something, you'd be like, oh, I'll accept myself a bit more. So then you go, okay, I want to accept who I am.
And that gives you that 8 out of 10.
That gives you an 8 out of 10. And because then you're going, is me losing 10 kgs going to make me accept who I am? Yes, but it's not quite there. I need to also go and get feedback from someone. So I'm going to go get a therapist. I'm going to go get a coach. And then you start to think of other ways that feed that I want to accept who I am. Because actually the first one-dimensional thought is, I want to lose 10 kgs and then I'll accept who I am. It's not. So you have the deeper you can go, the more options you'll get, because you'll be less focused on the one thing that you think you want, and you'll start to realize that there's 10 different things you can do to get what you really want.
Okay.
And that's how I've taken my approach so far, because there's been things that we've tried and eventually I've gone like, maybe that's not really what I want.
Yeah.
But when you do find it, honestly, it feeds your soul. So,
awesome.
Yeah. Next question is probably this one is about cost. Am I prepared to live with the cost of what I want? Am I prepared to do the things that I have to do to get what I want? Because any growth, any change, there's going to be a guaranteed element of cost or discomfort or effort and things that we're not used to doing.
And cost, we're not talking monetary expense.
Yeah, or it might be.
It could be.
It could be.
But what other ways does cost show up?
I mean, time, effort, discipline. Saying no.
To maybe those things where people are going to really balk. They're going to be like, oh, why are you saying no to the social engagement? Why are you saying no to not drinking alcohol? We're not saying you have to stop drinking alcohol, but there's going to be, those around you will have reactions, and it may have detrimental effects on relationships.
Yeah. And
on other things you want to achieve.
Maybe the hardest cost for us to realize until we're in it is the cost of coming out of our actual comfort zone. And what I mean by that, it's that person that you've been ignoring because you know they're going to tell you something you don't really want to hear. That's the cost. How do you lean into that anxiety that you might feel, that like the resistance that you'll feel from going and reading a book that you know is against your bias or your beliefs, or listening to a podcast that you had, or actually sitting down and journaling, or sitting down with someone that you know will tell you the truth because you avoid them because they really rub you up the wrong way, because what they're telling you is a different point of view. That's a level of discomfort that I think is really hard to see, because you could make money and spend money and still not change. It's like, how many times have you I remember like 4 years ago, there was a procrastination course. I was like, I'm going to buy that. It was £40. And the ironic thing was, I read the first 2 pages and I was done. There was like 30 more pages to go, because I didn't really want it, but it was easy to spend the money. I was like, oh, this is a cost. So actually the hardest cost for you to learn to lead into is things that stress you out, things that push your comfort zone of who you are and your ego, and leaning into those. So when something that you fail at miserably, you find yourself going, oh, I'm terrible at this I don't want to do. At that point, you've got to be, why am I not excited to have found out that this wasn't exactly how I thought it was? And there's a mindset shift. So when you get a feedback, when you get a rejection, do you immediately blame something else other than yourself? Because that's a way of avoiding that discomfort, that cost. And if we can lean into that, then you grow personally. So as soon as you find yourself blaming anything other than yourself, taking ultimate responsibility, that's the first sign that you're not willing to do the actual cost of the growth that you've asked for. So Bruce Lee, great saying, he says, don't ask for your challenges to be easier. Ask for the strength of character to face those challenges.
Great, I like it.
So if you've got things that are really pushing you at the moment, don't ask for them to go away. Because at some point you've asked for a challenge, you've asked to grow. And the universe or God, whatever you believe in, has delivered that to your doorstep. And you've gone, this is ridiculous, my life is tough. And then the universe or God's going, well, you asked for this, and it's going to keep coming.
Yeah, if you can't ask,
keep coming.
That's a point you didn't. Well, yeah, actually, because you've said you must be prepared to live with the cost. If you've asked to grow in a certain way, you have to accept that challenges are going to come your way, which are going to enable you to grow to that level. Yeah. So don't be surprised, don't be upset when those challenges come. They appear to get you to step up to that next level.
Yeah, and I had a little secret there. A little secret is to keep leaning into those. I can't remember what I was going to say. Anyway, Moved
So
on.
our first two questions were, you asked yourself, do I really want this? The next was, am I prepared to live with the cost of what I want? So it's going to come with some costs, some challenges. Are you prepared for those? What's the third one?
Am I ready to make the hard changes that are needed?
Okay.
Okay, so, and again, this comes into the discomfort that you know is coming, the cost there, but you know, the hard changes you were starting to say it is like, are you willing to say no to things that you said yes to? Are you willing to let go of things? And these questions all kind of tie in.
And what I thought of when you said, am I ready to make the hard changes? It's, are you ready to, I don't want to use the word grind, but are you ready to work hard at this and actually maybe not see any progress for a while? Are you ready to, there's going to be some hard adjustments and some stuff that you're going to have to be very consistent at, and you're not going to see results straight away. It may take a while before you kind of switch over to that next level.
That's a good point, especially with the personal growth and all the kind of stuff that people talk about. It's so invisible. It's so invisible until you look back.
Yes.
And I actually had that. I was writing notes today, and then you have to have future, you have to have present, you have to have past. Past you reflect on, future you just be as aware as you can be and accept, and future is your direction.
You said future twice there, I think.
No, present, past.
Yeah, you did past, and then you said,
reflection. So present, if I did say it, then I'm mistaken.
So you said past, this go against a past.
Past is reflection. You can't change what you've gone through, but you can learn from it.
Okay.
Present is you're not going to notice the things in the present as hard as you try because you're in the present. So think about, why is it so good to talk to someone from outside of your emotional circle? So a business consultant that knows what they're talking about.
They bring you
a
perspective.
Friend. They don't have your emotions, but they can see the truth that you know, but your excuses get in the way. So in the present, accept that as hard as you think you can, as hard as you try, and as much as you think you can see it, you cannot. We cannot. Because a smoker can't smell his own breath, right?
Yeah.
Someone else can smell it for you
Yes.
and tell you that your breath stinks. And then you're like, oh. So you have to try and be as aware as possible. It's better to lean on people in the present. And in the future, that's where you set your direction. That's the thing that's pulling you towards it, so you know what you're learning from in the past. Okay, so am I ready to make the hard changes that are there? Are you ready to reflect? And are you ready to reflect in a way that challenges you and not just confirms your bias? So that's the next. So next question. Am I willing to ignore distractions?
So question number 4.
Big one. Okay. And these distractions come in all forms. Friends, family, phones, internet, habits, hobbies, alcohol, smoking, vape, any lack of sleep, TV.
Any sort of escapism, anything that feels easy and comfortable is likely to be a distraction.
Yeah.
And in the analogy or the wording of the one book, like drifting, I would say, is a bit.
Yeah. So we use the analogy of, if you had a straight line between A and B, A is where you are, B is where you want to be.
Yes.
That's a straight line. And there were no distractions, you were in a vacuum.
You were just paddling in the ocean, rowing towards
No, not
A to
rowing.
B.
We remember we're on the speedboat analogy still.
Yeah, I'm
So
just thinking
you've
of
set
drifting.
it. No, so
yes.
you'll even drift. So these are strong whirlpools, otherwise they wouldn't be there. And then I gave away the analogy. Didn't I? So you know that from the island that you're on, the island you want to be is a straight path, because there's a line in your
mind and your vision for where you want to go.
There is a pole with a really long zip wire and another pole, and the zip wire is broken. You need to get to the other side. And you have to drive the boat underneath it, because then you know you're not going off path. But what happens when you stop looking at that pole and you look to the side, there's ocean to your left and ocean to your right with no islands. And then all of a sudden you start to drift, because you've taken your eye off the island, and you drift towards, on your right and your left are whirlpools, and they are continually going. If you get stuck in the first whirlpool, that's going to go round and round and round and round. But your boat's slightly strong enough that it doesn't get you sucked all the way in. So you think you're going, but actually you're just seeing ocean, 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 ocean. You look down, you see the island, you're like, oh, there it is, ocean, ocean. And you can just get stuck in that. Then all of a sudden you pop yourself out of it, because you ramp up the motivation, you get back onto the line, you're like, okay, I'm back on the route that I need to be on. But every single step of the way, there's a whirlpool on your left and your right. And unless you're aware of them, they're going to suck you in. And some whirlpools are going to suck you all the way to the bottom, and they're going to trap you there, just like a whirlpool does. And that's where you say addicts or something like that.
Yes.
But you can always get out of it. That's what even an addict can get out of.
A useful thought came to mind though on this is, we've obviously spoken about like phones or getting stuck into TV, or you mentioned like alcohol, drinking too much alcohol, etc. But I think there is a fine balance, because we're not saying that if you think about peak performance, it's not like, okay, you've got this goal, just drive as hard as you can to it without taking breaks. I think it's important to still remember that on this journey, on your growth journey, that it is a marathon, not a sprint. So you're working towards something, but you must very much still, you're not a machine. You need to take downtime. You need to do things that reset and refresh you. But as long as you're doing very conscious things that you know are actually, I know we could go do a whole different episode on this, but like regulating your immune system and calming you down and actually giving you energy, rather than those easy relaxation things that actually might have negative knock-on effects. So, like, we're not going to do an anti-alcohol episode here, but like alcohol, if you're drinking a lot and you're in your mid-30s, you'll probably start to notice that when you drink a lot, it's going to wipe out the next 2 or 3 days. So if you have intentions of improving your mindset or your body, that's going to knock you off track. Or if you think, oh, well, my relaxation is scrolling on social media, if you're not careful about the accounts or what the algorithm feeds you, you could suddenly get sucked into a certain mindset that is like maybe a bit of like toxic parenting, or an approach to, I don't know, an area of your life that you suddenly are getting fed a certain way of thinking that's not aligned to you. And that can get slipping so easily. So it's just that like conscious reset time, ensuring that you are taking those breaks, you are not just go the whole time, but when you do those things, make sure they are aligned to your growth journey, those reset times.
I was picturing a really small boat when you start, and these whirlpools are super strong, like they can pull you, but as you start to grow on your own journey, I am who I am and that's enough, I can float, my boat goes. As you start to grow, your boat gets bigger and more powerful. And the eventuality is when you're so determined on where you're going, you could literally ride over the whirlpools and they wouldn't affect you. That's how I like that analogy. Okay.
So that was question number 4 was, are you willing to ignore distractions? So yes, are you aware of your distractions, and are you willing to put some measures in place so that they don't pull you off course? What's question number 5, Don?
Am I willing to change who I am to get what I want? That's a big one, because who you are is the thing that you resonate with the most often, most of the time. So you might be able to put your phone down and not go on social media. You might be able to pick up and read a book. But what happens the other 6 days? Who are you then? You might be calm one day and angry the other 6. You might be calm one day and stressed the other 6. So you need to realize like who you are is that thing that reinforces that same thought pattern. So that's why sometimes you can be motivated and you go, I am a motivated person. But actually, if the other 6 days or 5 days you're stagnant and not motivated, you need to realize that there's a change of who that is in order to be something different.
What is it? No.
Okay. If you wake up at 7 o'clock or you sleep in, you don't have a time, you go, oh, that's just who I am. I can't wake up at 5. You're identifying with that person. But actually, if you decide, I want to wake up at 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. because I don't want to do extremes here, you then suddenly start to identify, I wake up at 6 a.m. That's just what I do. You've changed your identity. You've changed who you are. And you started to go, yeah, that's what I do. But some of those things aren't easy. And maybe that's not the best example. Coming out of rugby.
Okay.
So I was a rugby player, and I could have come into this journey and gone, yeah, Don, the rugby player, is now doing a podcast as an ex-rugby player. But actually, I had to be willing to change that whole part of me and go, I am Don, part of Identity Human. I'm Don that does the leadership stuff. But again, on this journey of growth, I have to realize that actually, I'm not Don, the leadership coach. I'm Don that was the rugby player. I'm all parts of that. And I have to make the changes of who I think I am in order to be the next version of what I want to be. So it's gone from my transition so far has gone from the Stormers player to the Exeter Chiefs player to a retired rugby player to a business owner of an e-commerce business to then actually being a leadership coach to now we're really focusing on an Identity Human. And it's going, I've had to be willing to let go of things of who I thought I was in order to allow me to grow into the next thing of what I am.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, I can think of another example that's similar but just slightly different in case other people resonate with it. It's like you may have certain parts of your identity or personality that you're like, that's who I am, and you might have unknowingly, so you won't even be aware, have put those parts of your personality or identity in place as a protective layer or coping mechanism. So for example, say you are trying, you're going on this growth journey. I'm not going to define that growth journey because you're going to have an idea of where you want to end up. And as a parent, I'm talking about as a mom, as soon as there's pressures from work or just it's a bit of a stressful time, I will get snappy and I'll be like, well, that's just who I am. I'm a bit of a grumpy, stern mom, and I will shout and that's just who I am, and that's how I get my kids to do things. And my identity is that in order for me to parent, that is how I parent. I get shouty and snappy, but that is like a protective layer. That's like how I have coped. And it's an identity that I have to let go of, which isn't easy to let go of, to move to that next level. Even though I'm like, but hold on, that's me. That's snappy. It's okay that I get grumpy. No, it's not, and it's something that I have to let go of. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So
how have you learned to let go of that?
I think that you can use fear, and fear can show up in control and anger. And you can think that you are open to change, but actually that can hold you back. So it's that identity that you sometimes have to let go of, and how you be like, well, that's just who I am. I can't change that. But actually, it is something you have to be willing to let go of parts of you that no longer serve you.
So how are you learning to let go of that part of you?
How am I learning to let go? For me, I didn't know this was turning on to a question. I was just trying to give an example. But for me personally, I don't know, it's a big question. I could go down, so there's so many different answers. One of them would just be realizing that it's working on myself and realizing that I can get the same outcome without needing to be shouty or snappy. That actually, and a lot of that is actually working on myself to be calm and regulated, to realize that there's no need to ever go into that space. But that's not really answering your question.
No,
I don't feel.
Try again.
No, I don't have anything else.
Well, someone is listening to this and they go, "I'm a shouty and snappy mom."
But it's a whole episode. I could go down. Start
with your one thing that you'd recommend, your minimum maximum that you would say. Just try and focus on this. I know what I would say.
Mine is just try and focus on doing 3 things for yourself every day that are just purely that serve you. Because when I get, this is totally off topic of this episode. That's why I'm looking.
We've done the 4 or 5 questions.
Where when you are snappy or being grumpy or feeling like you're trying to control your spouse, your husband or your partner or your kids, because you're asking them to do something, so it's not just your kids, and they're not responding. That's almost certainly coming from a space where you are a bit grumpy or snappy. So you need to ask yourself every single day, have you done 2 or 3 things for yourself that are purely in the moment, they just make you happy? And so you can't be like, oh, folding that basket of laundry, that made me happy because now it's done. It has to just be purely something that makes you laugh or in the moment makes you feel good. If you're not doing that 2 or 3 times a day, it could just be watching a bit of a show you find funny for 10 minutes or having a bubble bath. If you're not doing those things for yourself, then you're not meeting your needs. And I think if you're coming into any situation that is slightly tense or stressful, and you haven't met your needs first, it's going to come out in you trying to control other people. But that's so off topic of this episode.
Well, it's not. I mean, it's a change. We all talk about change. That's there's going to be, 50% of our audience is female. I don't know how many of them are moms, but I think we all get to a point where we're snappy, and that's probably it's a pain point. We don't want to, I know I'm going to put scar in inverted commas because kids are really resilient. We don't want to be repeatedly creating an image in our kids that it's okay to be snappy and grumpy with them because we're snappy and grumpy.
And I think just tying it back to the first question of, am I willing to change who I am. It's like let go of an identity. I still think it very much, my example, it very much ties in that like we can believe certain ideas about ourselves to be true. And like I say, you can just believe that what I do just get grumpy sometimes. And it takes a lot of inner work to be willing to let go of that. To be willing to let go of that. Like, actually, no, it's not really, I shouldn't have to like regularly get to this, have this anger inside of me or get snappy or shouty, because that doesn't, and that for me, that's on my particular journey, was saying that I had to let go of. And letting go isn't as simple as like saying,
I'm no longer
that's a
shouting
nice thing. And they go, it's like, it can be saying like that, where you are, it could be saying that you're holding on to that is, it's a layer of protection over you. And that was my point I was trying to make. You use it as this like shield to be like, remove blame or remove yourself to blame from the situation. Mm-hmm. And so for me, when I saw that question on your list of points, it was very much like, it's probably something that you're going to have to let go of, that you're using as a protective layer to excuse your reason for not
I would
changing.
say, am I willing to change who I am? Because yes, it's easy to say I am, but if I point out to you in the moment that you're a shouty, snappy mom in that moment, it's really hard to take that feedback because you're already grumpy, right?
Yeah.
It's the easy thing to say is, yeah, but I'm shouty or grumpy.
It's just, yeah.
And that's what I'm talking about, is like, are you willing to change who you are in that moment that you realize that you're being that thing? Those self-defeating beliefs that you've got, those self-limiting beliefs, those ones will pop up when you don't want them to. And unless you're willing to make a change in that moment, that's what you've got to focus on, because it's easy to sit here and listen and be like, yeah, I don't want to be a shouty, snappy mom anymore. So I'm not going to be a shouty, snappy mom. I no longer identify as that. It's the point is when it gets pointed out to you. So in that moment, you're shouty and snappy, you've told your spouse or your husband or your partner, whatever it is, I don't want to be that shouty, snappy mommy or daddy. So when they point it out, are you willing to let go of your ego and be like, thank you? Or are you going to be like, I don't need to hear that right now? Yeah. Because that's the point that you've got to realize you're not actually willing to. That's not a 10 out of 10. That's a 7 out of 10 desire. So it does all tie in. And so it was actually ends up being a great example.
And I can give another macro example. It's like if the analogy I can think of is just exercise. Say you have this idea, you want to be, you're in your 30s or 40s or whatever age you are listening to this, and you picture yourself in 3 decades time, so 30 years from now. And so for me, I'm mid-30s, so when I think about myself approaching my 70s, I want to be fit and healthy and strong. For me to embody that identity and change who I was a year and a half, 2 years ago, I was not that fit, healthy person because I didn't exercise regularly. So I wanted to change who I was and become that fit, healthy person. So on this question, am I willing to change who I am? On a macro level, when I would be sitting and I'd made these promises or this idea to myself that I would exercise 4 times a week. When I set it on actually set days of the week. So I exercise Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Sunday. Okay. So when it was like a Sunday and it was lunchtime and I still hadn't done my run, I had to be willing to change who I was. Because if I said to myself in that moment, do I want to go for a run? No, I didn't. But what question really helped me is, did I want to be the 70-year-old Rayanne who was just a bit like flabby and not fit and healthy and strong? Or did I want to be the fit, healthy, strong Rayanne when I was in my 70s? And that question, my willingness to, I want to change who I am, and the little macro decisions is, I think, what got me to be so consistent.
Yeah,
on the
I like
journey.
how you tied that into the 7-year-old. So like, I would ask the same question, do I want to be the 150-year-old that can throw his great? But it is, so I had a very similar thing. I want to be the grandfather or the great-grandfather that can still throw his young kids up in the air.
Yeah.
That's
Run
quite
great-grandkids.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, so you can start to tie it into something way more ephemeral and deep within you that goes, I want to be the fit grandparent.
Do you want to go for that run? No. But you need to tap into, do I want to change who I am and focus on who is it that I want to be, and that will then lead you into that action.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like it. I think that's a good place to stop. We're in 39 minutes. and we can keep going on this. But I really enjoy how we've. I hope you realize how we've tied all those questions tie into each other. But they all start with, do you really want this? So really, you have to ask yourself, reflect deep, sit. It's almost better to sit for an hour, a couple of days before you start doing this stuff, and just think, is this what I really want? And when you think this is what I really want, dive deep and say, could I fine tune this even more? Because remember that analogy of the island to island, it's a thin rope. It's not a thick bridge that's easy to walk over. It's a thin rope that you have to follow. And the thinner the rope, the more you focus. The more you focus, the more you're going to fine tune your mind and everything to go to it. So
cool.
Yeah.
If you are wanting to begin this journey of change, I have our next free 5-day challenge coming up in January.
On the 2nd. And I'm super excited about this. Don't miss out on it. That 5-day challenge we've refined, and it's effective. And we get such incredible feedback from people every time about the amazing sort of leap forward in their growth that people experience when they do this challenge. It's free, it's fun. Well, if we can tell you that in 5 days you're going to come away with having a self-belief that you didn't know you could have, that's what you're coming away with. I spoke to someone that did it a year ago, and they are still telling me how the one thing that we were talking about, we based it all around, they're still doing, and it gets them through some real darkness that they come up against. Which is amazing. Yeah. And that was amazing because they have some big energy, and it was so many conversations, but they still referred back to that as being so effective, and they're trying everything now. So yeah, if you're interested, as usual, always go to www.identityhuman.com. At the moment, it is a wait list sign-up page, but sign up to that and you'll be the first to know when the challenge opens. A little bit closer to the challenge, we will open the actual challenge sign-up page. But it's free to sign up now. It's free. It's available to sign up now. And we get a friend to do it. Get a friend to join you. Do that. It's like if you know that your friends are trying, come and jump onto that, and just do 5 days together. Honestly, I think that's got to be the way forward. We would love to see on the inside, yeah. And if you've made it to this point in the podcast episode and you have enjoyed what you've listened to, please do follow us already. If you're not, is it called follow? Click the follow button on. It's Spotify follow. Yeah, is that the wording? Follow. Yeah, follow. And also reviews. If you can leave us a review, massively appreciate the love. Comments on the episode. Even if it's just, hey guys, I love this. All those things really help us to keep putting out more episodes like this. So yeah. Unless and otherwise we're going to have to let Nike and Elon Musk in and sponsor the sponsorship stuff, and we don't want to do that. So okay. Remember, I'll work on me for you if you work on you for me. Ubuntu, we are who we are through others. Have a great day. What 12 days of Christmas do we still need to do? 4 of them, I think. I'm quite tired. It's 10 o'clock. Okay, then don't do it. We should do... Because I've got to edit this too. Yeah, and we need to look at our diaries and think when we're going to fit in. Maybe this weekend. Yeah, we're going to have to. But they need to start on Wednesday. So we have 8, so it's not like we don't have the episodes. Yeah. Do we have 8? So, we only have 4 more to do. Yeah. But we don't want to be rushing them. No, we can do it in the evening. You see this pistol over the floor now. Love, it's a very aggressive word again. I know, because it's still recording. Good night, my love. I'm going to go. I'll probably only be in bed 10 minutes. How long are you going to